Hello, everybody. Dennis Prager here. It is my honor to be in your life during this crisis, and you know I am the anti-panic guy. So if I call something a crisis, it's a crisis. Crisis is the response as much as the illness. The question is the response the greater crisis? William Bennett and Seth Leibson just wrote a piece on that. My piece today, out at townhall.com and on my website and elsewhere, is the left-right differences in response to this. It makes it as clear as ever been made how left and right are constructed. Our minds are constructed differently. The differences are so profound, as I've said, unbridgeable, and this illness, which of course affects people of every type, of every station, of every philosophy equally, is the classic example, the different responses. I'm now going to go over to the Netherlands, and a member of the Dutch Parliament, founder of the Forum for Democracy Party in that country, Thierry Baudet, Thierry Baudet. And
hello, Dennis.
Hello, it's a pleasure to talk to you, even under these circumstances.
Yes, I'm very honored to be on your show. I must admit, I've been a fan for many years of PragerU, and I've been following closely what you guys have been doing and building up over there. So I'm really honored to be on the show.
Well, please know we're honored that you're honored. So it goes in both directions. Before anything philosophical and political, what is the Netherlands' response similar to that of almost every other Western country?
More or less, yes. As a member of Parliament, I've been trying to get the government to start making preparations more in advance. And I think one of the things that we're witnessing here is that governments, on the whole, in the West, were rather unprepared for everything. Even though they could have seen this coming, they didn't, make quarantine centers in hospitals. They didn't get enough preparations and so on. So the response is somewhat panicky, as I'm sure you're experiencing in the United States as well. But yes, overall, I think the Netherlands is following the general pattern.
The country that isn't following the pattern is Sweden. Do you have any reaction to what they're doing?
Well, so Sweden has been taking sort of the least invasive measures when it comes to personal lives of people. They're trying to have the economy continue as much as they can, whereas countries like Israel and Spain are currently on the other side of the spectrum, and Hungary taking maximum efforts. But the issue really is that we don't know the extent to which the societies are being affected by this. We just don't know how many people have actually gotten the virus and what the extent is to which they are they're in need of hospitalization. So whether or not the Swedish approach is successful or not, it's really too early to tell.
Mm-hmm. Is the Dutch economy being as terribly affected as the American?
I'm very much afraid for this. We've been arguing as a political party and me also in Parliament for a very clear way out of the where we currently are. But as long as the government is not offering that, and we're small and medium-sized businesses are out of business, they can contain this situation for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks maximum, and then a very big recession is likely to hit the Dutch economy hard. So that's one of our major concerns right now. And I'm sure this is a major concern in the U.S. as well. Isn't there a point where the measures we're taking are going to be, doing more harm than the harm we're trying to prevent?
Well, in the United States, to ask that question is to end up profoundly attacked, as the story of my column this week. And the only people asking that question are conservatives like you and me in our respective countries. How do you explain that?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a serious question, and it's a rational question all of us should ask. I'm not sure I have an explanation for this other than that people like to see clear directions and clear leadership. And one of the things that I've been wondering, I can't really figure out why it's not happening, is if we can take a group of, say, randomly chosen 1,000 people or 5,000 people, we can estimate more or less exactly what the vote in the outcome of an election will be in a country. So it's a small group, a sample that is representative more or less, and you can deduce all kinds of things from it. Why not take such a random sample of the population so we can decide, we can assess the number of people that are affected by this coronavirus, and from that deduce how dangerous it actually is. Because really all of these discussions are very speculative, because we just don't know how dangerous it is, how many people are affected by it, and therefore what the cost of these measures is in terms of economy vis-a-vis the number of lives that we're saving. So the whole discussion remains speculative as long as we don't take these random samples.
Guy, I laughed because I want see what you're saying. I said let's take 5,000 people off the street from the very beginning. Then we know.
Exactly.
It's so obvious. And then we'll know the mortality rate, and then based on the mortality rate, you make a rational decision.
You can make exactly, yes. And then you can say, for example, which is one of the things that we have proposed, we're going to take a 2-week lockdown where we're going to say, this is how we're going to get control over the infections. And then we're going to transfer it immediately into a lock-in where only those very vulnerable will be protected, and 1 or 2 hospitals specialized in taking care of people, and the rest of the country can just go on. And we're currently stuck in a sort of a situation without a clear exit. And if we don't pay attention, we're going to ruin our entire economies.
Which I want to, yes, I want to talk to you about that. I'm speaking, let me just remind my listeners, I'm speaking to a member of the Dutch Parliament who is the founder and head of the Forum for Democracy Party, Thierry Baudet. And
Dennis,
yes,
just one more thing to add to this. So as your readers, or your listeners, they know, of course, that the Netherlands is a little bit like, it's the most Atlanticist country in continental Europe, and we consider ourselves as much part of the Anglosphere, I think, as part of the continental sphere. So we're sort of in between where Trump is heading and Brexit is heading, and the Netherlands is, say, 50% very enthusiastic about that. And my party is part of that movement. We support the Brexit situation. We've always been Trump supporters. From the very beginning, I've supported Trump, and I knew he was going to win. And now what we're seeing, I think, is a very interesting divide on the right, on the conservative side of the political spectrum. We're really trying to figure out how to deal with this corona crisis. And one of the lessons, I think, that we haven't really drawn yet, but people have to start talking about it, is what it means for our relationship with China in the long run.
Bless you.
I think this shows that China is not almost like us. It's not a country that's seeking to cooperate in a normal way with other countries, but it has been trying to hide the coronavirus from the rest of the world for as long as it possibly could, and still it's not accepting Western reporters or Western medical teams into its cities and countries and hospitals to see what has actually happened there. And I think we should blame China for it, and I think we should draw our conclusions and not be as dependent on the country as we have been.
Oh, God, is that important. It's one of the single most important things that can result from this. Speaking to a member of the Dutch Parliament, Thierry Baudet, And we will continue the discussion in a moment. You are listening to The Dennis Prager Show.
The Dennis Prager Show.
Hi, everybody. I'm really delighted to talk to this man, one of the leading members of politics. You see, I didn't want to say politicians. I mean, it's not a dirty word, but for some reason I was trying to avoid it. He's a thinker. He's clear, and he's a delight. Thierry Baudet, the founder. Is it fair to say, is yours the leading conservative party in the Netherlands?
Yes, we are. We are the largest party in terms of members. I founded Forum for Democracy 3.5 years ago as a political party, and before that, it was in existence for about 2 years as a think tank, an independent think tank. And we have been giving the conservative message on the whole range of issues. And I really think that we're filling a gap in the Netherlands, which isn't being filled by any other political party currently. So I would say we're the leading conservative voice in our country.
And
yes.
What percentage of parliament seats do you have?
Well, you're going to laugh now, because currently in parliament we have only got 2 seats, which is the equivalent of 1.6%. So we are really, really very small in the second chamber in parliament. However, we are the largest party in the Senate. And the reason for that is that when I founded the party, it was very hard to break into the political spectrum. I got only 2 seats at the general elections in March 2017, so that's 3 years ago right now. But then 2 years later, we had the Senate elections, and we topped the polls in the nationwide election. So then we turned out the number 1 largest party. So we went from the smallest party to the single largest party in just a matter of 2 years. So it was a very exciting roller coaster ride. And now we are also the largest party in terms of members. So we organize events across the country. Well, not right now because of Corona, of course, but normally during the season, we are always in the countryside trying to connect with our voter base and really build a grassroots structure that's not just a political party. I love the thing you just said about politician almost being a bad word, because politicians over the past several decades, in my view, have lost contact with a very significant part of life and society. So we're trying to be a movement of ideas, and I've set up summer schools and summer universities and other places where people meet each other. We're publishing books. We're publishing short documentary videos, very much in PragerU style, to really make this into a movement that's changing the very fiber of society and making the long march through the institutions, and not just being elected politicians.
God, is this important. What do you think is going to be with the EU? Would you like to see the Netherlands leave the EU?
Absolutely. I think the EU is an anti-democratic project. It's not just undemocratic, but it's from its very foundation anti-democratic, designed to create a super bureaucracy where unaccountable, unelected managers, very much in the James Burnham style, if that means anything to your listeners, where the electorates in the several European countries cannot vote them out of office. And we will be stuck to this continental superstate forever if we don't pay very much attention to what we're trying to do right now with the Corona crisis.
Yeah, well, do you think the Corona crisis is going to have an impact on the EU?
Well, there are 2 options, really. What they seem to be trying to do right now is push through with several centralization measures. So they're trying to push through with Eurobonds, which really would mean that we in the north of Europe would be paying for the debts in the south, and that would be a terrible mistake. The other thing is that constantly they're trying to impose centralized immigration policies on us. So that means that some guy in Brussels is going to decide how many immigrants from which countries and which religious backgrounds we're going to have to accept in the Netherlands. And I think if they push through with that, then there might be a strong backlash of people supporting what we have been supporting for a long time, which is an exit, like Brexit, just getting out of it altogether. So it's very much open, in my view. Either the EU is going to push through with this, with a backlash as a result, or the other option, which is what we've been seeing in Italy in the past couple of days, where people feel so left alone by the European Union on the one hand, and so strongly patriotic about the national measures being taken in response to the coronavirus, that they started burning EU flags in public and on YouTube and on Instagram and all these things. So people have a sort of an anti-EU sentiment and a pro-national identity sentiment because of this coronavirus thing.
Well, isn't that what ultimately isn't that what happened? What has happened? People realize, whoa, I have to take care of Italy. I have to take care of the Netherlands. I have to take care of Denmark. Isn't that happening?
Yes. Yes. They realize, and this is also a point that we've been talking about just before the break, about globalization. And it's all very well to feel a citizen of the world when everything goes well and you can go on a holiday somewhere and all these things. But when the chips are down and you're really going to ask yourself, okay, how am I going to provide for the elderly? What am I going to do when I'm running out of money? Who's going to give me an emergency loan? All these things, then people are going to look at the national state. So what we might see in the wake of this, and I think that will be a positive element, a positive side effect, is a reawakening of the nation state.
One more question on the economies. I don't see how we will not have a worldwide depression. Am I too pessimistic?
Well, I would like to say that you are too pessimistic. I would like to be hopeful and say, I think there's still a way out of this. But I don't see governments making the steps to moving out of the lockdown and supporting businesses again. So I am becoming more and more pessimistic every day. I really hope that we will soon have this sort of step-by-step going back to normal approach and program. But I must admit that I'm likely to agree with you. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry to end on a pessimistic note, Dennis.
In 15 seconds, tell people why you mentioned PragerU.
Why I mention it?
Yes.
What it means to me.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes,
that's correct.
I think PragerU is one of the most important initiatives in the Western world to reawaken a new generation to arguments that they haven't been in touch with at all. What we've seen in our entire educational systems, as well as in the media, is an almost complete hegemony of left-wing.
Yes, God bless you, my friend. I can't wait to meet you in Holland.